Hello class. Yeah, how are we? Now we're on the next topic. That's topic and that is topic 5. Topic 5, which is temporary and permanent changes, temporary and permanent changes. Recall topic 4 we looked at using materials, and we saw so many of them, but now we are back to temporary and permanent changes. Now the various subheadings here we shall look at the meaning of permanent and temporary change. What does it mean for a change to be temporary? And those are English words, English words. Now we shall now also visit examples of permanent and temporary change. Then we shall look at the differences between permanent and temporary change. Then lastly we shall look at simple experiments to illustrate simple experiments to illustrate say permanent and temporary change. So that will terminate the discussion of that topic there. Now, what does the word, let us tackle the first one here, meaning of permanent and temporary change. What do they mean? Now, before you go into the chemistry of permanent and temporary change, I would request somebody to remind, what does the word temporary mean in English? Temporary. What does that mean? So, let's look what is to be temporal, and also speak on permanent also. What is to be temporal and what is to be permanent. And also tell us the meaning of the word change. So
temporal is something that is permanent, something that can be reversed.
Temporal, something that can be reversed. Go ahead.
Then permanent is that when it occurs it cannot be reversed or changed. It's permanent.
It's permanent. If it's permanent, it's permanent. To be permanent means to be permanent. That's what you're saying?
Then change.
Okay.
Then change.
Yes.
Like from one form to another.
From one form to another. Patience, close this gap. Add to his discussion.
I think temporary means it does not last so long.
To be temporal is to be for a short time.
Yes.
Okay.
Then permanent means forever.
If
Let
to
me
be-
say, like, for example, a permanent house and a temporary house. Then changes from one form to another.
Change
Let
of
me say-
forms.
Let me say now we studied about melting. Melting, we studied it was first an ice cube, Then it melted and it became water. That's change.
It changed temporarily.
Yes.
It changed. See, thank you very much. Now, those are correct answers. That would mean that a temporary change is a short time change. That means the change that can be taken back, not so? Because temporal means the effect does not last for a longer time. Then, to be permanent is for something to occur in a way that it will be there for a long time. To be there for a long time is to resist to be returned back, not so? See, now, in chemical terms, let us try to examine, to understand these two words by using these two simple illustrations. The first one is, could you discuss within yourselves the changes that occur when a paper is burnt? The changes in terms of mass, in terms of structures, in terms of reversibility. That means discuss what happens to a paper when it's burnt in terms of mass and reversibility. Then also discuss that the other case is melting ice or heating an ice clamp. An ice clamp. In terms of mass and reversibility, so that we can easily say the meaning of permanent change in chemistry. You are taking down the discussion, two things: changes that occur to a piece of paper when it's burnt in terms of the masses and reversibility. See. Now, discuss the changes that occur on a paper when it's burnt. You finished? Yes, let me have one present to us the presentation of what happens to a paper when it's burnt in terms of mass and reversibility. And you can also add the type of substance formed. Is it new? Is it just changing its form and it will go back? So then discuss the other format is when an ice clamp is heated in terms of mass, reversibility, and newness of a substance. See, yes, Joko, take on the first one, then Asporo the second one.
When a paper is burnt, its mass reduces, and the thing that occurs is irreversible, because when the paper is burnt, white solids will be formed with the ash, which are called ash in human language. So the thing is irreversible, and the ash will appear to be lighter than the paper that was burnt. The paper was burnt.
Yeah. Is there the substance new or it has
It's a new substance.
new substance? Yes, aspal take on the ice.
When we heat ice, this change is reversible because the water that is formed can be turned back to ice by freezing. Then the mass of the formed product is the same as the mass of the ice, meaning there is no change in mass. Then also there is no new substance formed.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very good. See, now that takes us now here. Now give us the definition of that permanent change now. Permanent change and the temporary change. Yeah. What's it now? What's a permanent change? Yes, pendency.
Permanent change is a change that occurs and cannot be reversed.
Then temporal
Temporary change is a change that occurs and
can be reversed. But newness of a substance, is there a new substance formed for physical, for that physical?
Yes.
It has been formed.
Yes.
See, now to be a new substance is to take up another name. Did you hear that? See, now you will say is melting a physical change or chemical. He said it is physical because you still have water. You have, but for a pepper, you have a pepper and ash. See, that means to be a chemical change, there must be a change in the chemical name. See, that's very, very correct. Yeah, that's very correct. Now, we would say a permanent change is that change where a new substance is formed and it can be reversed. Not so? You have water, you have water. Clear? See? Now, that means that permanent change, that physical change is a physical process which does not involve any change that is chemical. To be changed chemically is to change also your name. I think that's very, very clear. Now, a permanent change is one in which a new substance is formed and cannot be reversed. Like you have a pepper, you are forming ash. See, that means there is change in the chemical name of the original substance to the new substance. See? Now, if the chemical name changes, then there occurs then there must have been something that is called a chemical reaction. See? That chemical changes are associated by chemical
reaction.
And a chemical reaction is, we have seen that you must have an original product forming a new, but in a temporary change you must have an original product forming the same original product but in a different form. Now, for a change to be chemical, then it must have two different things which we call reactants changing into new things. See, original substance giving us a what? A new what? See, substance. That change is said to be chemical because there is change in the chemical names from reactants to products. Now, I think that's a bit very clear. Let us now examine some simple examples of permanent and temporary changes. See? Yeah. Now we have brought in the concept of a chemical reaction here. We shall visit it ahead there. So, examples of physical and chemical what? Changes. Now, with respect to the discussion of the meanings, what would be some of these examples? Let us have one side physical changes. What are some simple examples there? And you would defend your answer by telling us why you say it is physical. See? Somebody identify some physical changes there and some chemical. Yes. Yeah. As for first.
Physical is turning water.
That process. Melting of ice. So, okay. Do you have a reason why?
Yes, because it is reversible.
It is reversible. What do you mean to be reversible?
Okay. When the ice melts to water, the water can be turned back to ice.
Exactly. Yeah. Any other thing? Yeah. Burning a paper to ash. Why are you saying it's chemical?
Because a new substance is formed and can't be reversed.
See, what do you mean by a new substance is formed?
The original substance is, let me say, it's gone. It cannot be.
It's a paper.
Yes, it was a paper, but now it's ash. Ash can't be turned to.
That's very, very true. So, now, next here, some other, you go? Freezing of water. So, you want to defend it?
There is a change of state of water from liquid to solid. What I'm saying is not physical change because that solid can be melted back to.
It's just saying liquid water is changed to solid what? No chemical change in the name. Not so? Then chemical change, another one? What are this? Burning magnesium ribbon. See, that one, now we are going to see it practically here. If you burn magnesium ribbon, he's saying the change is chemical, is permanent. It changes the substance from one form to another. See, we shall burn it and see, burning magnesium ribbon. Are they over? Burning magnesium. Now me I would ask, what of magnetizing a metal?
It is physical.
Physical change, why?
Because that means you can lose the magnetism. Can lose the magnetism and it becomes a metal.
It becomes the same metal called, if it's iron, it's a, see. Now, what of, maybe we would say what of mixing salt with the sand? See, is it permanent or temporary? Mixing salt with sand is temporary. Could you defend that? See?
When you separate them by, okay, first, is it all depending on, you can not sure, but when you separate the sand now from the salt water.
When you separate back the salt, can you receive back your salt and sand?
Yeah.
Then it's a physical. So, because if you can't detect it from formation of a substance, then detect it from reversibility. So, let's take an example of sublimation. Which change is that? Okay, now let us come to part C first. Then we look at two experiments here for sublimation and burning magnesium ribbon. Then we shall see the lesson. Difference between permanent and temporary change. Differences, since people have known here. What are the differences between a permanent change and a chemical change? Let me hear. I hope you discuss them, then you give them to me. Permanent and chemical change. A physical and a chemical. Yeah. Continue the discussion with respect to four things. You are done. Thank you very much. Now you can take over. Who can take over? Please take over that discussion. The differences.
Physical change, no new substance is formed.
Start with the reversibility.
It is reversible.
It is reversible.
The chemical change is irreversible.
Is irreversible.
Then, in physical change, no new substance is formed. Chemical change, a new substance is formed.
Exactly.
Then, on mass, there is no change in mass. And chemical change, there is change in mass. Then,
energy given out or absorbed. Which change does involve?
Now there we got confused.
You got confused.
But the confusion came in physical changes. Now for example, during freezing, the substance has to give energy. Then during melting, it has to absorb energy. Then for chemical, the substance has to absorb energy.
Okay. Now there is what we call a general. The word general difference means some will refuse, not so. I give you an example of mixing salt and sand. Does it involve any energy given out, like heat and so on? So now we are seeing that most physical changes would just not involve Most. We are not saying some will, but most. Now, let us be in brief. Reversibility, you say the physical is not reversible, chemical is reversible, not so?
No.
You said physical is irreversible, physical change is reversible.
Yes.
Chemical is irreversible, not so? Then you said no new substance formed, new substance formed, not so? There is no change in mass, there is change in mass in chemical, not so? Then in physical, heat is not normally absorbed or given out, not normally. It can occur, but not normally. So here, always heat is given out or absorbed. So, now, period. Now, coming here, simple experiments to illustrate permanent and temporary change. I will request you to take over those simple experiments, and I'm going to guide you to carry them out and see are they ideally physical or chemical changes. Now, simple experiment. There are so many, but we shall just use only two for the interest of time and chemical changes. We shall use the first one is heat two spatula and full of what? This is sublimation. Two spatula and full of ammonium what? Chloride in a dry test tube. In a dry test tube. And record observations and conclusions. Record observations and conclusions. Yeah. That one you are doing it just in like 4 minutes. Now, how do you carry out sublimation? Sublimation, you can do it like this. Over your tripod stand, your tripod stand, you place a beaker. Place a beaker and put in that solid in the beaker. See? Or you can use a boiling tube, which you can clamp. Clamp a boiling tube. See? But if it's a beaker, it will have to sit here. If it's a boiling tube, you'll have to heat it direct on the Bunsen flame. A boiling tube will be heated direct on a Bunsen flame. Then ensure you put here another boiling tube above it. You clamp both of them with a test tube holder. Here you put cold water. Then you heat. You heat the solid here, ammonium chloride. This is ammonium chloride. Now, if you use a beaker, then you will need to put a beaker on a retort stand and put a solid. Then get a round bottomed flask and put in cold water, so that when you heat, the subliming substance will have to cool on cold water here. Now, I would request you to use this alternative because this one we are not ready with this one, the round bottom flask. Now we are set with this one. Could somebody heat this component? Put here ammonium chloride put here boiling tube with some water and clamp both of them. Yeah, it means you can try to the boiling tubes both, the other big one. I put in one, put in water. Taking the hot part here. I think as you observe, there is that white fumes, those white fumes.
How about this luminous, non-luminous? This is dark.
Our Bunsen burner has a problem with air holes. Now, as you observe that the solid is forming on this, it's forming here. That white solid is coming from the bottom and subliming. Then, because this is cold, it settles on that coldy part. Okay, that's enough. Okay, thank you very, very much. We can see that this white solid at the bottom is trying to sublime. See, these are white, these are what we call fumes, but it's the white gas from white vapor from those white solids that is now the white solid is changing into the white fumes, which now are settling down here because this is cold. That's sublimation. Which change would be this one? Which change would be this solid is now settling here?
So temporary change.
It's a temporary change. Could you explain that?
The ammonium chloride was first a solid. Then when it started heating, it turned into a white fume. That smoke, then after it went and settled at the bottom of this boiling tube, hence it returned into the ammonium chloride that we are heating.
The same ammonium chloride. Thank you very much. Meaning no new substance has been formed. Now, that is very good. That's a temporary change. Now the last small practical is heating magnesium ribbon. Heating magnesium ribbon. Magnesium ribbon, point it up there. Is that you tell us first the color of that ribbon.
It's gray.
The ribbon is gray. The best apparatus that we could hold it with here is a forceps, pair of forceps or tongs, pair of tongs. But this can be an improvisation for this. Yeah. Now we cut a small piece of the gray metal. It's gray, as we can see, holding it on a pair of tongs. Then we hit it on a Bunsen flame. Want to hit it? Yeah, you can remove it. Yeah, now you can leave it. If you look at it here, it burnt. The gray solid burnt. Now it turned into a white solid. Did you notice that? That means a metal turning to a white solid. That means there is some change in the chemical change in the structure there. Something has taken what? Place. Now when magnesium is burnt in oxygen, magnesium being burnt in that gas that supports burning, it gave us a new substance that's white, magnesium oxide. I think you can see why the solid had to change. It's because the magnesium, which was gray, turned into a different compound called magnesium oxide. Now that's the end of our discussion for this topic. Let me remind you through what we've been talking about. We first talked about the meaning of physical and the temporary change, and we said the one is reversible, one is not reversible. We went to examples of physical and temporary changes. Then we went to differences, and the key difference that became very, very critical was the one of energy. We've seen that for a chemical change to take place, there must be an input of energy in form of heat. Either you apply heat or you lose heat. Then we also saw that a chemical change involves a chemical reaction, which involves an equation called chemical equation. Now, that's the end. Let me give you the activity of integration and put down the activity of integration. Most of the people in a certain village, call the belief. Most of the people in a certain village call the belief, where tobacco growers and bought vehicles after selling tobacco. Where tobacco growers and bought vehicles after selling tobacco. However, soon the vehicles broke down and were parked at home. Because it became expensive for them to afford. As a chemistry student, develop a message to sensitize the village, to sensitize the owners of the car in the village, how they can keep their vehicles safe. And what kind of change the vehicles will undergo if not kept properly, and which kind of change the vehicles would undergo if not kept properly. Now that's the end of the lesson. We meet in the next lesson.